Good afternoon, everyone who all are listening to this video and watching it. A very good afternoon. Myself, Shivraj. I am going to today teach you about democracy. Democracy with specific reference to the class ninth textbook of chapter number 2. So, before I begin, I would like to know what you people understand by democracy. Basically, I want to know the origin if you know where it comes from. To be specific, etymology. The etymology is a new word for children like you in your age or in your standards. Etymology is the like कहते हैं ना उसका it's like a beginning of the word, the ethnicity part of the word where it comes from, right? So the democracy comes from a word comes from is a Greek word which means demos means people and cross means society, right? So society, when I say that demos means people and cross means society, society is limited with rule. Rule is more important over here, right? So now I would like to move forward and will explain you the basic outline of the chapter we're going to study. This entire book of class ninth is somewhere related to democracy and its perspectives, the types of government and with examples or sometimes without examples, or sometimes you have to give a thought process to it. So in this chapter what we are going to learn is what is a democracy and what are the minimum I emphasize the point, what are the minimum features of the democracy, and then we will move forward in the end of our conclusion mentioning what you have learned from this chapter. We will have a short discussion one to one in a group of two children, and then we will try to understand your viewpoint, and maybe if you give a justified answer, it's pretty like honorable part for me that I did my duty well. If you somewhere drag down, it's also my honorable duty to explain you the best of it. So after finishing this chapter, I've told you there are two looming questions which are over here. What what makes democracy as it is the form of a government, and why? So please remember, until now I haven't shifted to the definition of democracy. Now I will giving after the two looming questions, what and why, I will give you the definition of democracy. Democracy basically is a form of a government. Now, form and government, two things. Government means executive, legislative, and judiciary in any nation or state, and form means the type, how the nation, that state is being run through, how it is addressing the issues of people, how is it making a welfare state or not. All these things comes under the pursuit of the form of government, right? So there are two examples given in the book of your reference, which are even from the past first chapter. This is of the freedom in child and freedom in Poland. Freedom in child was when Alan Day captured the or stood as a leader in a form of a democratic government, and child in Poland. Okay, so these are two examples which I would like you to read in your own person. Even if you have read it, reread it when I end this chapter and you go home and sit for studies. I will be really obliged if you do so. It will make us understand better. How better I will say is how we can compare the system we are discussing right now and compare in the perspective of the system which has happened in history. As we always say, is that present history is future politics. There is nothing new in this sentence, right? And no objections also. So present history is future politics. So now studying political science, civics, for example, to be more specific, I would like you to read the first chapter thoroughly. So now defining democracy, very important. This concept needs to be like present in your subconscious or conscious mind or your cerebellum, fixed with a glue of blood. To be honest, your cells should know what democracy is. So democracy is definition of democracy. I mean, I would like to begin again by stating that it is a form of a government which a nation or a state applies to run the state, or to address the issues of the people of its state, to make it more transparent in a sense, right? So there's one thing I would like to bring out from the history of the world. That is the definition given by the President of America, Abraham Lincoln, during the First World War. I guess I'm not pretty much sure about that. He says that democracy is by the people, for the people, and of the people. Now, what is by the people? By the people, when we say the democracy, according to Abraham Lincoln, by the people means that democracy is what people choose to be, choose it to be. Like you choose your representatives, people who will speak for you. Okay, by the people, of the people means the democracy is something which is chosen by people. Now the decisions could be regrettable, but in future, but it is chosen by you. The leaders, the representatives are chosen by you. For the people means the democracy is supposedly to work for you. Yeah, no personal gains are there in democracy. The government which would be or will be formed will specifically focus on public issues. Correct. Okay, now let's carefully and a very succinctly, in a very succinctly manner, distinguish between what is a democracy and what is not a democracy. I have explained what is democracy and what our democratic countries are. For example, United States of America, Canada, India specifically is the largest democracy in the world, and many more such countries. Not but pointing out, not all countries are democratic. Some countries are non-democratic in a sense, should be noted in a sense. Now, what are these non-democratic countries, or what is non-democracy basically? Non-democracy means that there is a form of a government which is not democracy. Rather, it could be autocratic, maybe, or hereditary based, right? Or let's say totalitarian. Now, I'm giving little big words. Autocratic means somewhere where one ruler is there and you have to follow his rules. Totalitarian means only one person's rule applies to the entire nation. It's a totality, in totality. So basically, the idea of non-democracy is that the people's views, the citizens' views, is not taken into consideration. Rather the decisions and ruling power is imposed upon them, implied upon them, right? So some features of democracy I will like to come now. uh question any I will first I will address the questions. I mean, we've done a little bit of the philosophical part. I would like to address the questions. If you have any, please go ahead, I'm waiting. Yeah, so there seems that there is no question, there are no questions. So coming to the point, some questions about the above definition, which arises the definition we discussed of the democracy. I have some questions regarding that, although it is from entirely nothing new to you because it is mentioned in your book, and I'm elaborating upon that. But my point is that I want you to understand the difference between democracy, non-democracy, definition of democracy and definition of non-democracy, difference between rule of people and rule by the people and rule of the people. These are the few concepts I have covered, and I want you to understand them. If you have any particular or minimal doubt, please raise up. This is a bit tough because I'm going in a very philosophical way. Why? Because democracy is also a kind of a philosophy, right? Because I will over here put a point. Democracy first emerged in Athens, Athenian city of Greece, where people used to sit in a round table and they used to discuss the issues, the problems the people of that particular state are facing. So the idea of democracy is actually a historical one and a philosophical one. Democracy has emerged from the past, right? Past means Athens, Greece, right? These Greek people have really contributed a lot to the philosophy, and one of this is democracy. So I will now ask, who are the rulers which is to be elected? Which decision may be taken by the non-elected people in democracy? Right. My first question is, who are these rulers which we elect? Who are they? And why do we elect them? Point number one, these rulers are the people amongst us. They took a stand, they take a stand. They stood up to represent us, represent our views, represent our ideologies, represent our needs, welfare issues, everything like that. And they ask us to make them elected, eligible, not according to the constitution. We're not dealing with the empiricity. We're dealing with philosophical part. So not according to constitution, but according to the needs of the people. They are chosen. The best candidate who stands in an election, right? Best candidate who stands in an election to be a leader is a person who is to be voted for by the people of the nation to make him a leader. When I say the word leader, I mean that the leader is one of those persons who's going to represent the citizens who have voted for him in future. Right. Now my second question is a kind of a subjectivity test. What kind of form of government is democracy? Right. This is I have covered a point in the at back. Okay? Democracy is a form of government, and I've been emphasizing it a lot. But I want to know, okay, what is this form? What is this form basically? I will give you two to three versions, and I'll try to make this point more simpler. I will say that the judiciary is free in India. Right. Point number one. Constitution has given us fundamental rights. Number two, being an adult in an adult universal franchise case, a person above the age of 18 years, which we consider him or her as a rational person at that stage, is able to cast a vote and elect a representative for himself, right? So these three basic points: judiciary independence, then the fundamental rights issue, which is justifiable, and then there's the leader point. These 3 points make these 3 points can happen only when the democracy is a form of a government in the nation. Getting it? So basically, a welfare state, a free state, a decolonized state, a state being not under pressure of any foreign nation. Independent state is working with the ethos of the democracy. That is forming a government which is by the people, of the people, and for the people. Totally dependent upon the totally dependent upon addressing the causes, issues, etc. for the people, and making the nation, the state work in a manner in which peace could be prevailed and the situations could stay calm and people could enjoy the liberty they have granted by the fundamental rights. Right. Uh, Now I would give you two examples. One is of Pakistan, one is of another nation. In Pakistan, these examples are in order to get a better grasp on what is a democracy and how is it different from other forms of government. What happens in Pakistan in somewhere around the Musharraf period, Musharraf comes up and takes a military coup. Now, what is a military coup? Military coup is something which is when military takes over the politics and the government of the nation. Then the rule is by military. So the General Musharraf, General Pervez Musharraf, who was the head of the government, who was the head of the military that time, uh, issued orders for a coup, and the government was taken over by him. He elected himself as the president on non-objectionable, not being an objection, unobjectively, right? Without any elections or any such vote or any such thing. He made himself president just on the basis of the powers of the military vested in him. Yeah. So also he passed a referendum. Like I said, he elected himself as president without any certain thing. But officially speaking, there must would have been something like maybe he must have issued a affidavit type of a thing, like we call in law. कि उसने he issued a order basically. कि I will be the president to know people to know it. That order is known as referendum. The referendum. What is referendum? Referendum uh, is a vote in which people accept or reject the prevailing issue, and the decision is taken. But for example, let me give you example of referendum. It can be a constitutional law or a land reform or a leader chosen. So he passed a referendum, and most of the people, even if they were against the referendum, did not cast their vote for the referendum. But Sharaf still with his powers and his capability of being into such great instance of power, issued this referendum and in his own favor, right? Now, so what was there in this referendum was that the legal communication of the country would be monopolized by the president. Freedom of press was curtailed, and provisional assemblies were not allowed. Right. So the domination of military basically was the idea of the referendum. The state was supposed to be now run by not by ministers or by the elected representatives or by the government which could have been formed, but by the military leaders headed by General Pervez Musharraf. So this choices, yes, word is choice. Choices were made limited, limited for people. Choices were very much limited for the people. This form of government can anyone think, or anyone can who all have understood. Although I am able to repeat anytime you want me to repeat. I am always ready. You can mail me or text me, and I will be giving you the slides in the class PPT presentations to make it much more clearer. Who all have understood this what I have tried to explain? I would like to know that what kind of government under General Pervez Musharraf was. Okay, it was dictatorship. After a military coup, a person comes in and issues a referendum and says that I am going to be the president for the next 5 years or so without any reason or without any objections expected from the citizens of the state. I be the ruler. This is known as the dictatorship. Okay, yeah. I also want to address one more question. That is, I am being talking about people. 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 Who are these people? Be it India, be it Pakistan, be it China, Mexico, United States, Canada, anywhere, not concerned with the form of government of like for democracy or anything. I just want to clear this fact in your brains and your cerebrum system specifically, that who all are these people? These people are the citizens. These people are the geographically residing personality persons who in the geographically residing group of persons in the particular state within the boundaries of that state. These people are entitled to certain rights, certain guidelines, certain fundamental duties. In some cases though, exceptional exceptions I accept. So these people are the citizens of that state who are responsible for creating, forming a government, and government is responsible in turn to address them. But this case may not be applicable in the form of dictatorship or the or hereditary coming up of the things, or the totalitarian state or the fascist state or the Nazi state. So I hope you got the idea of people. So next coming up is uh, next coming up is the idea of China. Second example, what happens in China is that there is a Chinese Communist Party. Any party since the beginning of the China, since the beginning of the independent China. Earlier, it was in the under the power of the English. I mean to say colonized under English. So if colonization is a new word, I would suggest that you must listen to me now. Colonization means when a foreign rule is implied in a domestic way. Foreign rule in a domestic country is applied. English ruled British. English was a foreign rule. In India, English ruled India for around three centuries or much more. So India was colonized under British. When it got freedom from English in a very layman language, freedom, or in a particularly civics and political science language, got decolonized. Like when a when a state, sorry, when a state gets nation state or anything which gets freedom from the foreign rule, it gets decolonized. Colonization and then decolonization. This is the second step, right? Uh, when China got decolonized, it was there existed a party which was Chinese Communist Party. So it was a major and a very super populist party. Many persons, many people who were in the part of this party were the leaders of the China. Now, if any other party wanted to become wanted to take part in elections, it has to have get a permission from the Chinese communist leaders. Now, I am saying a word which might be looming in your head is communist. What is communist? Who are communists? In short, as per the requirement of this chapter, I will just say that communist or communism is a theory given by a very great philosopher known as Karl Marx, in which he said communist is the public owned property. When it comes to communism, it means public owned property, right? And when it comes and the opposite contrasting word to communism is capitalism. Capitalism means the property in the hands of the government, right? Property in the hands of the people, and communism means property in the hand of the government. Really sorry, I'm a little confused. I'm repeating again. Communism means property in the hand, public property in the hand of the people, and in the hand of the government, and in capitalism it is the hand of the people, right? So this was the case of China. So we can very well see that China cannot be called democratic. It can be called partial democratic. Why? Why? What is the reason? Why? Because one party dominance, not one party dominance, is being seen here just as a factor that anyone who wants to run, who wants to get be a part of election has to take permission from the major party. So this does not makes it independent. Though he may or may not get the answer in yes or no, or he may go for the election or may not go for the election. But point is that the decision of he being running into an election, running for a seat, participating for a seat, he has to take permission from the Chinese Communist Party. All right. Coming to the example of Mexico, who gained independence and decolonization in 1930s, right? Election after obviously the decolonization was from English Britain, yeah. So as I've already explained you decolonization, do you want me to go it again? If yes, please raise your hands or objections. Or in the end of the class, you can come to me anytime in my free periods and I will address your questions. Anytime means anytime with emphasis. Decolonization in 1930s. So in 1930s, elections were held after every 6 years. Until 2000, every election was won by PRI, the Institutional Revolutionary Party, which was the main party in for the struggle to gain independence in Mexico. So fairly it so I can pretty well say that if for such a long period of time only one party is coming into election, it is supposedly assumed that this party might be using unfair means to come into election. Yeah, I mean the VVPAT system which we followed this in this election in India was not there at that time. It was a ballot box election, and maybe that country would have been using a different form of election also, voting election in sense voting. So this voting might be unfair, right? This was unfair. So it cannot be called a democratic nation. It was like things were obviously imposed on the people. The ideas were imposed on the people. So now I will like to speak on something which is known as one person, one vote. After giving you certain examples of non-democratic countries and also explaining you the definition of democracy in a very broad platform, on a very broad way, in a very broad manner, and giving citing this guy Abraham Lincoln, and trying to explain his three perspectives. There are other people who have given definition of democracy, but we considered Abraham Lincoln's the best one. So I've discussed it here, and also I have also given my own perspective of democracy, the ethos and all. Etymologically, I explained you that democracy is a Greek word in which demos means people and kratic means rule. So now I would like to shift my attention, shift not my obviously, I have to shift the attention of the class towards one vote, one person. There are two things there are certain definitions which I want you to know. primarily I want you to know that the one vote and one person is the concept every democracy follows. Every person is entitled with one vote. Every person, when I say a person, I mean a person who is above the age of 18 years, according to the Universal Adult Franchise Theory. Any person who is above the age of 18 years is eligible to vote and choose a representative for his or himself. And also, this is known as suffrage rights. Now, when I have brought in the word suffrage, I would also like to bring in the word suffragette. As you know, during the French Revolution, which you have studied in your class 8th or probably ninth, I guess, the French Revolution in history classes, we know that women were not given the rights to vote for a very long period of time. So the issue is that the suffragette word emerged from there. Suffragette means a woman above the age of 18 years and voting. Suffrage means a person male above the age of 18 years and voting. Although we consider the word suffrage and use it in more often because it is like covering both suffragette and suffrage. So in general, we use suffrage only. So when we speak about this, we need to have a discussion on women's right to vote primarily. Number one, women's right to vote. Number two, minorities' right to vote. Number three, one vote and its one value. Right. Which third point will be discussed much broadly in your chapter fourth. But for now, I would like to speak upon what is one vote and what is one rule. So when a person becomes eligible to vote, and please don't get bored down by this lecture. I will be ending after this part, and I will continue after the second part in the next class because I don't want in a haphazard to for you people to understand something which is the crucial critical root of the government, any government, specifically democracy. So one rule means one vote means that one person, if he's 18 years of age, he can go to the voting center and vote, and his vote will be counted as one vote as a citizen of that particular nation, specifying the case in India. One vote, one rule. If the person whom you are voting comes into majority, right, that person is eligible to be elected as the representative of for your purposes. Also, to represent the nation if he gets the opportunity to do so. Right. So one vote means one rule. One person will be get elected. One vote for that person which whom you have given. Not may not get elected. The other person and any other person who has voted for that guy, that person may get elected. So it depends upon the majority factor basically on counting of votes. But yes, one vote is there. You cannot vote twice. You are only eligible to vote once. And to be proudly saying that now most of the nations of the world have accepted the suffragette part. Women are entitled to vote. In India, this discrimination was existing before the first independence, but before the first elections. But during the first election, this restriction was totally removed, and people and both male and female both above the age of 18 years were eligible to vote. Okay. Right now, I will end up this chapter and I will end this discussion over here. And I would like you to debate with me or speak to me on any issue you have, be it after the class if you feel shy, in person or on telephone number or anything as such you feel free. And I also will make sure that from the next time I be very more liberal in explaining because I felt as if things were going in above heads because it was a quite high level of teaching. That's not an issue. You learning is never bound. Learning is never limited to the standard you are in. I mean, when I was in class 12th, I read the entire Bipin Chandra. So Bipin Chandra then later on came into my graduation. So it doesn't mean so. So thank you so much. Please enjoy yourself. Enjoy reading. Please take care of yourself, and I hope you are following the precautionary measures issued by the government of India. Please adhere to them. and also to the health issues which might arise if you do negligence. Do not do it. Stay safe, stay sound. Thank you so much for listening to me.